welcome to this week's edition of Martha Monday. Well, fall is here and it's in full swing. And if you're like me, you have mums on the porch, you've pulled out all your fall decor, you're burning those candles that smell like cinnamon and spice, and it's finally time to pull out all the recipes that feature pumpkin. I was so excited when I went into Aldi a couple of weeks ago and they had pumpkin back in stock. It's kind of a seasonal purchase for them, so I snagged several cans with lots of plans for my pumpkin. But today I want to share one of our family's favorite recipes. It seems like I say that every time I share a recipe with my viewers, but this truly is one of those. I've made these muffins for years. Today we're making Almond-Pumpkin-Chocolate-Chip Muffins. Now that sounds like a little bit of a strange combination, I know. When you think about putting things together, you might not think about pumpkin with chocolate chips and with almonds, but trust me, they are absolutely delicious. I think I first came across this recipe in a muffin book years ago. I can't remember, but the recipe called for a full regular size muffin. Well, I started making these in the little teeny small mini muffin cups, and we just sort of eat them like dessert. They can be served at breakfast, but with the chocolate chip they seem more desserty. And so when I started making the smaller ones, a friend of my oldest son Kyle's, Austin, when they would come over and have these, he started calling them poppers because he said you just pop the whole thing in your mouth and enjoy it. So they've been named poppers ever since. And when my children come home in the fall, Thanksgiving, and even on into Christmas, they expect to find muffins. So when I make this recipe, when I make the poppers, the almond pumpkin chocolate chip muffins, I usually triple the recipe because it calls for 1 cup of canned pumpkin. So when I did the math, I didn't want to make a single recipe and then have part of the can of pumpkin sitting there waiting to be used for something else. So I just figured out how much I would need to use 2 full cans of pumpkin. And so it led me to just triple the recipe. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now I will post it. You can follow the link below and print your own copy. And I will do it for a single recipe. But I am going to triple it when I make it today. I know I do that to you always, but it's the way this girl rolls. To sort of keep ahead of things, I often double, or as in today, even triple my recipes just to save myself some time. I have all those extras that I can freeze or share, and I just make the mess one time. So this is the way I operate, and welcome to my kitchen, and we're going to jump in today and let you see how easy it is to make these muffins. I've assembled my ingredients, pulled some things together. The first thing it calls for is 1/2 cup of sliced almonds, and these are to be toasted. So I put these on a cookie sheet, on a baking sheet. You can put them on a pie pan or anything. I baked them for about 3 minutes at 350, so they have already been toasted and cooled. If you do this, I want to caution you to be sure and set the timer. I have on more than one occasion burned my almonds and had to throw those in the trash and start over. So you might think, oh, it's only 3 minutes, I'll keep up with it. You will not, trust me. Go ahead and set the timer. So those are all ready to go. We're going to first of all, though, get the muffin cups ready. I've already got my muffin cups ready. I've put those in there. They're all set to go. And then we're going to mix the dry ingredients. So this recipe calls for 1 2/3 cup of flour. So I've got my flour out, 1 2/3 cup. But again, remember, I am tripling my recipe. And when you triple 1 2/3 cups, that can be a little math lesson if you have children at home, but it makes 5 cups. So I've got my great big deep bowl here because this is going to make a lot of muffin batter. These freeze beautifully. There's 2. And so I love to make a whole bunch. I love to put them in a little clear cellophane bag and tie them with a ribbon, or put them on a nice little fall plate and share those with a friend so they make a nice little gift. But of course they're lovely to put on a little tray and serve to your guests or your family. Okay, I hope I counted right. If I did, there's 5 cups in there. So 5 cups of flour. The next thing it calls for is 1 cup of sugar. And again, we are tripling. So I'm going to do not 1, not 2, but 3 cups of flour in here. So here we go. There's 1. And I guess I could have measured out some of this ahead of time as well, but wanted to let you see exactly how long it takes and sort of pace yourself. There's 2. I think I'm going to have to get out my next bag of sugar and refill because it's getting to be baking season with all the holidays coming. And there is 3. So 3 cups of sugar. We got our flour, we got our sugar. The next thing is pumpkin pie spice. Now, pumpkin pie spice is one of those spices that you get about this much and they charge you $5 or $6 in the grocery store. So years ago, I found online or developed my own recipe for a pumpkin pie spice recipe. So I'll also include this in the link below, but if you don't have pumpkin pie spice on hand, you can mix together cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg and kind of make your own. So I have this little container from not Pampered Chef, Tupperware that I've had for years, and I sort of use that to make my own pumpkin pie spice recipe. So this one calls for a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. So of course, I'm going to put in 3 tablespoons. So 1. Oh, and this smells wonderful. It smells just like my candle that I like to have burning. So, oh, delicious. You can just smell all those potent spices that taste so yummy in this recipe. So we got our pumpkin pie spice in there. Next is baking soda, a teaspoon of that. But a teaspoon, 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. So I'm just going to get my tablespoon out and put in a tablespoon of soda. That's it. And then it calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. So tripling that, we get 3/4 of a teaspoon of powder. And get that in there. I'm just going to dump it all in and then mix it all together once. And then salt, 1/4 a teaspoon of salt, and we need just 3/4 of a teaspoon. So let me get to my little adjustable thing there, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I like to put my salt in a different container because I just can't seem to measure it and I end up wasting the salt, so I put it in there so that I can measure easily. So we have all of our dry ingredients there. It tells us to thoroughly mix those. Love to use my spoon that came from the Middle East. My friend Kathy took a wonderful trip to the Holy Land of Israel and brought that back to me, so I treasure that spoon and like to use it. It makes me think of her. So got all my little dry ingredients all mixed up. The nice thing about using a nice big bowl like this is you never have to worry about flinging anything out of it. So we've got all our dry ingredients mixed together. Now it tells us to break the eggs into another bowl and add the pumpkin and the butter. Now the butter is here, but I let it get hard. I melted it a little earlier, so I am going to have to No, I think it's okay. I'm gonna give it a little stir. It got a little solidified because I thought I was gonna start right away and I got distracted, but I think it's gonna be okay. It's hardened slightly, but it's gonna be fine. Let me grab another bowl here. So, separate bowl. So I went ahead, it calls for 1/2 cup of butter. So there are three sticks of butter in here. And I like to use real butter, ladies, when I cook. So we're gonna put all the butter in here, all 3 sticks of it, put it in here to whip it up. And the eggs, I've already got the eggs all broken up and ready to go. I have them in a separate bowl here. So I'm gonna take my whisk and just sort of go ahead and whisk those up. It calls for 2 eggs, so I'm putting 6 eggs in this recipe. So get these all sort of whisked together a little bit before I mix them in with the butter. And here we go. So now I've got the butter and I have the eggs all mixed in together. There we go, mix this, and then we're going to put in the pumpkin. It calls for 1 cup of canned pumpkin. I've already wiped the tops of these off. Be sure that cans that might be dusty, you wipe those off well, wash them off before you use them. I have my handy dandy Pampered Chef can opener that I love so much, so I'm gonna put both of these cans of pumpkin in here, get the lids off here. There we go, undo them. I love the way this just lifts off nice and neat and even. Let me grab another small spatula to get this out of here. And we'll get that pumpkin. Boy, it smells good. The smell of fall, nothing like that. And pumpkin is so healthy for us, just full of so many great things, and you just feel good about putting pumpkin in a recipe. Of course, it's diminished a little bit by all the butter and the chocolate chips that we're gonna throw in there as well, but at least maybe they'll counteract one another just a little bit. So I've got that can of pumpkin in. Trying to get it all out. Don't want to miss one little bite of that. Let's get the other can of pumpkin going. The other thing that I'll sometimes do if I don't have time to bake all this at once, now I do have 2 of those muffin pans that have, let's see, 4, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 24 little openings on there. So that really saves me a lot of time. I can bake 24 at once. But if I run out of time, the batter just stays fine in the refrigerator. I just cover it so it doesn't dry out, and then I can bake those later. So if I get into baking and then I need to run off to an appointment, or I get something else I need to be doing, I'll just put that in the fridge and try to get it baked up in the next day or so. But like I said, these freeze so beautifully. I have a huge Tupperware container. I just put those in there and they stay frozen and available throughout the holiday season. My kids come home from college or come home for Thanksgiving or for the weekend, and if it's fall, they are going to the freezer and opening it up to see if that Tupperware container is in there with the poppers that they love so much. So I'm gonna get all this mixed in together very well. And then it tells us to mix this and then to whisk it until it's well blended. It tells us to go ahead and stir in the chocolate chips and the almonds first before we add it to the dry ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I've got the almonds already toasted, 1.5 cups of these. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup. But again, I'm tripling. Recipe also calls for 1 cup of chocolate chips. I, again, have the Aldi brand. There are 2 cups of chocolate chips in 1 bag, so I had to use 1.5 bags, so have an extra 1/2 cup of chocolate chips stowed away in the freezer. I like to keep my chocolate chips always in the freezer until I'm ready to use them. So they are frozen like little marbles. And the reason for that, part of the reason for that for me, is that if they are room temperature and I put them into batter that is a little bit warm, it just seems like they want to start to melt together. And so keeping them in the freezer sort of keeps them nice and they hold together in the cookies or whatever I am making. So I'm going to clean out my little whisk here where the chocolate chips, I think I just remembered that sometimes I wait to add the chocolate chips after because of this very reason, but there we go. So I've got those in there. Now it says to add the liquid measure to the dry ingredients, and it's going to fill this up pretty well, get that all mixed in. See how quick this goes together? It's just so easy. I think sometimes it feels daunting to do a whole recipe and we think, oh, I don't have time, I'll just buy a box mix or something. Well, don't do that. It really does not take that long at all to add some things. Pull it together, you've got it on your shelf anyway. Make something delicious. Nothing says I love you to your family like something homemade and delicious. Maybe this will, if you like this recipe, maybe it will start a new tradition of enjoying the holidays and looking forward to fall with poppers at your house. And your family will look forward to these. They make a great gift. They're always a little extra at our Thanksgiving dinner table. I may serve pies or different recipes, but I always seem to include a little platter of poppers with Thanksgiving lunch dessert as well, because the kids love them so much and so do we. And pumpkin just seems to go with the holiday season. Like I said, we use them for Thanksgiving, we serve them for Christmas. They just sort of start in October and they just carry all the way through. So the one thing about tripling the recipe is it does get to be hard to mix, but a little bit of extra work to have it all tripled and only have to do this once instead of 3 times makes it absolutely worth it. You don't want to get your dough too stiff, so I just mix it until I don't see any more white. That tells me that all of the dry ingredients are all mixed in, and we are almost there. Yes, we are. Okay. and my chocolate chips are not melting and leaving little chocolate streaks in my dough since I did not freeze them. So that's looking good. Here we go. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but there is what that dough looks like when it's all mixed in together. Now, ready to go ahead and get these baked. I did not preheat my oven. Let me do that. 350. When I'm doing the mini muffins, I bake them for about 15 minutes. If you're doing a full-size muffin, and some of you may choose to do that, then you're gonna bake them for about 20 minutes. I think it would also work to make this as a pumpkin bread and put it in a loaf pan. Of course, you'd have to bake that even longer and just sort of experiment with what that would look like. But about 15 minutes is right for a mini muffin. So I've got my muffin pan all ready to go with my little baking cups already lined. I love to use a little cookie scoop. That seems to help me get just the right amount. And I'm not using spoons to get it on and off. I drop one in there and it's just the absolute right amount. So, and it tends to just go very quickly, filling these up. Yes, this will go very quick. You don't have to get your hands dirty. You're not having to use all the little spoons to take it off of one teaspoon and put it on another. You see how quickly this goes together. Super quick, and these will be super delicious. I'm gonna go ahead off camera and finish filling up all my little muffin cups and get these baked. And somebody that I love and care about is going to get a muffin delivery tonight as a little get well gift. So hope you have enjoyed seeing how quick and easy it is to put together almond pumpkin chocolate chip muffins. I hope you'll give it a try in your kitchen, and maybe leave us a note below and let us know if your family loves poppers as much as my family does. So happy fall, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving, and thanks so much for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed today's video, would you give it a thumbs up? And if you have been blessed by what we bring to you, we hope that you'll subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. You know, it doesn't cost you anything. It's a huge blessing to our ministry. And of course, we have fun on Mondays. We get in the kitchen, we do some fun and practical things, but my passion is what we bring to you on Friday. On Friday, we do some teaching from the Word of God. Cross My Heart Ministry exists to encourage women to love God and to love His Word. And my friend, I hope that's where today finds you in your life, in your corner of the world, loving God and loving His Word. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland. Have a blessed week.